Still waiting. Still waiting.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Hello,
Hello.
is everybody ready?
No, not yet. Just hold on, please, Madam Chair.
1 second.
Yeah, that's better.
Is that all right, Leanne?
No, this one.
Can you see us?
You've got a lot of light in your background, but
Can everybody please start on mute, please? Thank you.
have I got a lot of light behind my head? Hello?
We don't know who's speaking there. Can I ask who's speaking there?
It's George Daskalopoulos.
Could you
from-
please
Thank you.
put yourself on mute, Mr. Darkopoulos, for the moment?
We can see you, Mr. Daskalopoulos.
You can see me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can, sir.
Okay. There's
Could I
no,
get you
no
a- could I
bright
get-
light behind me?
No,
Please
that's fine.
put yourself on mute for the moment, Mr. Darkopoulos.
Okay.
We're right there. Yeah, Madam Chair, off and running. We're live.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Hunters Hill Planning Panel meeting of the 24th of February 2022. We are now dealing with item 2 on today's agenda, which is the demolition of an existing dwelling and swimming pool and construction of a new dwelling, swimming pool and outbuilding. There were 17 submissions received by the council in response to the notification of the application. And there are some persons registered to speak. And the first person that I call upon is Mr. George Darkopoulos.
Yep. I've got 4 points to make and then a summary. I assume it's not going to take too long. I refer to the council report of the original development application plans, which was critical on a number of points. It was stated that the development control panel in a heritage area required a pitched roof with eaves in keeping with those of the heritage area. The pitched roof was requested by the adjoining neighbours and 12 of the local residents who'd made submissions. The roof of the amended plans does not achieve this, and in the council's report of the amended plans, there is no specific reason given as to why this requirement of the development control plan has not been followed. My second point is the height of the north section of the proposed building is over 6 metres. The height limit is 6 metres. This exceeds the development control plan height. No reason again has been given as to why this is deemed compliant. My third point, in my submission to the amended plans, I have noted that my main outdoor living area is where I spend considerable time. This is at the north side of the building facing the Lane Cove River. The proposed building, which will now extend beyond my building line to the north, this will result in shadowing of my veranda and outdoor living area in the afternoon and significantly diminish my amenities related to my outdoor living. This will also have the effect of diminishing the view of the heritage building as seen from the Lane Cove River. This effect is due to the first floor level being extended in a northerly direction as compared to the current building and beyond the northern boundary of my building. As a heritage building, I do not have options of moving my building line to make any adjustments. I am sure the panel also knows of the extra costs of maintaining a heritage building. My fourth point is, I note that the outhouse along the common boundary wall is still listed in the amended plans. This is a change room and showers for the pool. There is currently no such building, and this is not necessary as this can be provided within the proposed building as it currently is in the existing building. It is listed as a non-compliance and should be withdrawn. I note the reason for this, for its maintenance, is that it is below the fence level. However, this does not address the reason for request of withdrawal, which is because of the resulting noise levels directly adjacent to our outdoor living area. So I'd like to summarise now. At the recent site visit meeting by the local planning group, I expressed that our main concern was the effect of the proposed building on our main outdoor living area and our northern veranda. We requested a setback of the proposed first floor area such that we could maintain our amenities. It is my request that this approval is postponed until the matters I've listed above can be resolved. I am happy to answer any questions from the panel. I would also like to request if there is any appeal process which is available to address these matters. I think that covers what my concerns are. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diakopoulos. Mr. Sam Derwent.
Not sure if you can actually hear me. It's the first time
We can hear you.
Thank you very much. My concern is that we found out about the new proposal only yesterday morning when another resident came to us and said, "Hey, did you get this?" We understand that, okay, well, we haven't had time to read the new proposal and would just, request some time to review the current documentation. Otherwise, because, we don't know if there's any new concerns to be listed yet, or, we just don't know. So we'd just like to request some additional time to review the current documentation.
Is that it, Sam?
Pretty much. That's all I have
Any
to say.
members of the panel have any questions of either of these residents? No? Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your attendance. Now I would ask Andrew Martin and Paul Davies, and I think another couple of gentlemen who are here to speak on behalf of the applicant for the development. I can see Andrew's name, but I can't see a face. Now I can see a face, yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And do we have Mr. Paul Davies?
Mr. Davies, I understand, is online, yes?
I can see his name, but I can't see his...
Yes.
There he is.
Sorry.
His car.
Yes, I apologise for that. Between events.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Shall I kick off?
Perhaps if you could, yes, address particularly the concern of the residents.
Yes,
Because
I will.
I understand probably Mr. Derwent's one you wouldn't be able to address, but certainly Mr. Diakopoulos you can.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I will kick off just with just an introduction of the proposal in terms of its compliance with the controls. It's set out for you in the report, but it does generously comply with the height. It appears as a 1- and 2-story building. We say it sits comfortably within its setting, respects the adjoining items, single story from the street, and it's a well-crafted building. It's modulated in relation to those second version or the amended version of the plans. So there's a lot of work done. There is a pitch roof on this proposal. Mr. Diakopoulos may not have seen that, and Mr. Derwent, but there is a pitch roof on this amended proposal. There was a lot of work done to revise and refine the scheme and provide additional details. So there's extra landscaping, extra deep soil, extra modulation, pitch roof, additional sections, details, lowering of the foreshore near the pool. Mr. Diakopoulos is correct. It does maintain that outbuilding. We say that's acceptable. So does the report. It's lower than the fence line. It is an outbuilding structure associated with the pool, and we say that that does not have any significant adverse impact on the neighbour's property. In relation to the compliance, we say we comply with 60% landscaped area. And also you will note some of the setbacks that we provide are much greater than the DCP and the LEP requires. You'll see setbacks of 2 metres to 2.896 metres in some sections, and some setbacks of 2 metres, 2.6 and 3.4. So it's certainly not, taking those setbacks to the minimums. There's some other generous setbacks to allow for some deep soil planting additional that Council's Heritage Advisor has had requested in the amended plans for us to address. In relation to Mr. Diakopoulos, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but his submissions, we say that there's adequate solar maintained to his property. We've provided the shadow diagrams in plan and elevation. They've been set out in a full detailed additional plan set that was submitted with the amended plans. And the council officer has recommended that supporting that submission in terms of solar. Pitch roof, as I mentioned, has been redesigned for this building. And overall, we say, Mr. Diakopoulos mentioned there's a 6 metre height control. The actual height control is 8.5 metres, and the DCP wall height control is 7.2 metres. The report before you, Madam Chair, sets out compliance with those controls, and those controls are in the DCP and accept those in good faith that it's not 6 metres, it's 7.2 for wall height and 8.5 for the overall LEP height. So in that respect, we've addressed both of the two of the main issues that Mr. Diakopoulos raised, which was compliance to the wall height, compliance to the LEP height. We've got a pitch, I've just come out of hospital actually, Madam Chair, so I'm a bit croaky. But we've actually addressed the pitch roof to Mr. Diakopoulos. In relation to Mr. Derwent, we say all the changes that have been made on the amended set of plans are less of an impact and provided greater setbacks. In our opinion, there will be no element of the revised amended scheme that was notified that would have any greater impact than the scheme that was already made submissions to and the objections to in the first round of offerings. Thanks, Madam Chair. I think my voice is going to fail.
Thank you, Andrew. Do any of the other representatives here for the applicant wish to speak? Mr. Davies, Mr. Dodge, or Mr. Tavadros? Any other people wish to speak?
Madam Chair, I'd perhaps make one comment. I'm really here to answer any questions that might arise.
Yeah.
But I'll just make one comment in that I think the issue of the pitched roof and the form of the house, I would normally not support modern developments with flat roofs in Hunters Hill, but I think this one has actually designed it very successfully and introduced some interesting elements of pitched roof as well. I think the benefit of the particular design and what appeals to me about it as a heritage consultant is that it actually allows the heritage buildings on either side to actually stand quite dominant around it, particularly from the streetscape view. It's quite recessive in its form overall, and I think that is an element of success. It isn't generally achieved in squarer, more modern buildings that will come before the panel. Thank you.
Do any members of the panel have any questions of any of the representatives of the applicant that are here today?
Yeah, I just want to ask Paul, do you feel it responds to the river in the same way that responds to the street in maintaining recessiveness and dominance?
Yeah, Ron, I think look, it's not the same as the street, because obviously the street, we've got a stone wall, we've got a garden, we've got a single story form, which is quite very recessive, really. I mean, it's not going to read in the street much at all, which I think is a good thing. You will see more of it from the water. That is inevitable because it has several levels. I think the design again is such that it's relatively moderate. Now, I don't know of any new building built in Hunters Hill that faces the water could be described as modest or moderate. I don't think that goes with the ethos of what happens, but in the scheme of things, I think this is actually quite restrained, and I don't think it actually does compete. I'm not talking about amenity issues, I haven't addressed those, but I don't think it really competes with the things around it. I mean, what's there at the moment is quite a dominant built form. I mean, a very different one, but it's quite dominant. So I think this is reasonably successful.
Any other questions from any members of the panel?
Yes, Madam Chair, I've got a question for Mr. Martin. Andrew, acid sulfate soils, how does that affect your site? Do you know what classification it is? You're on mute, mate.
Thank you, Mr. Young. In terms of the classification, I would be highly surprised, given its level, it would be affected. I can check its classification in about 1 minute if you'd like me, or ask any more questions of any other people, but I could check that for you now.
Well, that'd be great if you could do that. That'd sort of help me there, because that hasn't been mentioned anywhere. So, yeah, I'd be much happier if there's, if it's what, class 5.
Yeah, sure.
John has his hand up. Do you know, John?
Madam Chair, yes, indeed, it is a class 5
Okay,
acid
excellent.
sulfate soil classification.
Okay.
Excellent, thank you. That solves it. Stop searching, Andrew.
Thank you. I was on the planning portal logging in.
So are there no more questions?
I suppose the question is, thank you for the 99% of vehicle path for the front and the changes there. Now, of course, that then becomes a fairly large sort of excavation in that landscaped area, and it would require some form of safety fence as well for that. Do you have any comment on the impact in that on the front yard?
Yeah, if I could respond, and maybe Mr. Davies could respond. I think to the panel, I think we've got a real success in the front elevation of this building, that how recessive it is, and it is single story. And there's not too many applications that you'll see before you on sites like this that will come in as a single story building fronting the street. Everybody wants 2 stories and maximising the floor area. So I think what we've tried to design there, the ethos or the design premise is we have got the sweeping excavation, so it won't be readily apparent. It's not going to read as that sort of gun barrel. It does sweep away, and hence that 99 percentile question came into play, and we did do a lot of work in 24 hours to get all that done. So I think the success is the single story, the modesty of the form when viewed from the streetscape. It's very modest indeed. Yes, we do have an excavation for that driveway. The upshot of that is, or the benefit as well, is that you don't read a garage within the streetscape then. So some people, there's a two-way argument there in terms of, because we do have that sweeping basement style of driveway, we no longer need to accommodate a 6 metre wide or 6.5 metre wide garage in the front facade of the building. So the benefit there is that the building then reads true. It's not, if you call it contaminated, I don't find a garage contaminating, but it's not contaminated by purists that you've got a double garage in the front facade. So we say that single story recessiveness allows us that sweeping excavation that moves away in your eye line. And then to answer your question about the safety issue, you're right. we would need to develop or have, I would say, just a very simple black palisade fence that would be not competing with anything, and maybe Mr. Davies could shed some light on what he would think would be an appropriate, but certainly not glass, but just a simple palisade fence would do.
Yes, look, I'll add something to that in that I think because we have the stone wall at the front, we don't really see a lot of the front of the property from the street. When you look in through the gate at the moment, there's a large paved area leading to the double garages, triple garage. And I think the difference between seeing a driveway that opens out or seeing this driveway ramping around from the street actually has no impact whatsoever. I just think it won't come into play. So I think if we didn't have the stone wall and there was a different idea on the site, it could be a very different proposition, but I think it's quite reasonable, and the fencing is easily resolved.
Thank you. Well, if no other members.
I've got one more.
Do.
Andrew, the conditions of in the officer's report, do you have any objection to any of those or any comments on the conditions? You're on mute.
Right. There's some conditions on colours and materials, but without trying to be anything on those, we would just accept those as the conditions. Whether we need to look at those later on, I'm not sure. But I haven't gone over them in specific detail, except to say that there's some conditions there about the colours and materials and finishes. So no yes or no. I mean, they're conditions that council impose. So they're never set in stone, of course, but we've accepted them in that report. We're not objecting to them. It doesn't mean to say that once we do our construction certificate, things do pop up from time to time. You'd be lying if you never said there'd ever be an amendment in any future application. But for now, we don't have any objections to those conditions. We'd ask the panel to endorse the recommendation.
Of course, we'd be happy to have no conditions.
Might I just advise, for the benefit of Mr. Newton, that the condition described as PCT 54 is in fact a dilapidation condition which requires a report to be done on adjoining residences before work commences. It's not printed out in full. That is its reference, which you can find on the council's website. Are there any other questions that any members of the panel had? There are no more questions, then I will close this part of the meeting, the public part of the meeting. Thank you all for your attendance and your contribution to understanding the matter before the panel today. And the decision of the panel will be available as soon as possible.
Could I just say something before we finish?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Could I just say something before we finish, please?
The matter has finished. Panel meeting is over.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
How do I get out of this? So I